Your living room is the factory. The product being manufactured is you.
This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Many of you may have seen the video I did a few months ago, even though I'm a brand new YouTuber, about the movie Civil War. And now that the movie has been released, I need to talk about it again because all of the stories out there, this is exactly how mind control works through predictive programming. All of the stories out there that have come out since this movie has come out say things like this: the eerie parallels between Civil War and this real-life revolution, right? Or Alex Garland's Civil War is an explosive warning against a Trump takeover. These are the types of stories that have come out since the movie has come out, telling you that, wow, it's really weird parallels. The movie kind of really weirdly paralleled the real world. That's because they're programming you. That's because this isn't an eerie parallel. The movie is programming. That's what this stuff is, because everything that's happening in the real world right now isn't really real. It's manufactured. So we can call it real life. We could say things like real life revolution. Talking about Trump and the war, a takeover, the warning against a potential civil war that's coming. It's going to be explosive. Well, that's only because they're the ones who have fueled the civil war. See, what they do is they formulate the news because they control the news, and they give you a blurred, manufactured perspective of what's going on in the world. Thus, all this division. You know, there have been Democrat and Republican parties for a long time. Now, your vote hasn't counted for a long time, but 30 years ago, 20 years ago, nobody cared what other people did as far as voting goes. They go, oh, who are you going to vote for? Are you going to vote for some? All right, whatever. Because when the person ended up getting put in a position of power, it didn't really ever affect their day-to-day life, right? Yeah, their taxes may have gone up here, inflation may have happened there, but overall, your quality of life and your mental health was never affected by what person was put in the White House until now. So for people out there who are young, you should start realizing that it's never been like this before. And the alt-right media and the communist media are manipulating you into choosing a side. They're not giving you the option to not participate. They're making you choose a side because, of course, they want you to feel like you're responsible for the rigged outcome of the coming election. And, of course, the coming manufactured civil war, because they are dividing us into blue and red states. And that's what this video is about. I'm going to show you some of the latest programming that's out there. But first, for anybody out there that missed it, let me give you just a little clip of the trailer. And of course, the trailer mimics real life, because just like the movie is written with a script, so is everything that's happening around us right now with the Democrats and the Republicans. The fake leaders in power, the fake president, the fake Donald Trump, former president. These people are all manipulating you into political parties. They are the ones dividing you through manufactured news, like the story with Trump right now being on trial. Even if he goes to jail, he'll be out in time for the election. This is to build momentum, build support, and to get people to not actually start a revolution against what these people are doing. Because if the people realize that these politicians were forming this division amongst civilians, if they realize that the vote didn't even count, then everybody would put all their differences aside and these people will be gone. But as long as you stay in this simulated reality, as long as you stay in this left-right paradigm, you are playing right into their hands. Here is a clip from the trailer, Civil War, which just came out.
19 states have seceded.
The United States Army ramps up activity.
The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The future president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on?
Citizens of America,
the so-called Western forces of Texas and California
have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens?
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death.
Don't do this. But here we are.
Some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
You don't know?
Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
So does that look eerily similar to what's going on? Yeah, that's because, just like I said earlier, the movie was written with a script, and that same script is the script that they're using in our everyday lives. You see, movies actually have more truth to them because they use predictive programming. So they show you in movies what's going to happen before it happens, which of course is a form of magic as well. They show us this ahead of time, and they also program how you respond to it. They program you in a movie like this into being, well, if this is your political affiliation, this is how you're supposed to respond, right? And of course, the movie ends with the president of the United States hiding under his desk. And of course, the president of the United States is kind of taking on a Trump-like appearance or Trump-like persona in the film. And of course, the president ends up getting killed. And this is all fake and manufactured. So let's take a look at some of the stories out there that aren't related to the movie, which have everything to do with the Civil War. Now, remember, I showed you this map that they released before the movie came out. And this is not a blueprint. This is not a blueprint of how it's going to look. But of course, it at least gives you a visual so you could realize that it's going to be a new map of the United States. Now, I'm not saying that any of this is going to be real as far as the areas, each state, and what they're showing, because that's not been determined yet. But we need to watch these stories out there because then we could really tell what states are going to be blue and what states are going to be red. For example, what I covered with the chemtrail bill that's been passed in Tennessee. It shows us it's going to be a conservative state because these are luring tactics. These are tactics they're using to get people like me and you to want to move into these states. And I warn people, and I've said it before and I'll say it a million times, I don't care if I'm repeating myself. When you get lured into a state and they're using tactics like chemtrails, when we know these people don't care about us, we all have to be awake. Okay, because we could all see that story and say, I want to live there because I don't want to have chemicals dumped on me anymore, and I don't want these gray skies days. I'd like to see the blue sky again. It would be wonderful, right? However, you don't think that they already know that you're going to come to those states? It's almost like they're saying, hey, come to our state. We'll give you $1 million. That's what it feels like. So do you trust these people to go to their states? Do you trust Florida to go to Florida? No. It tells me that these are states that are going to get drilled with weaponized weather as well as direct energy weapons. So look at some of these absolutely hysterical articles that are out there. These articles, again, tell us how they're subliminally, and it's subliminal because people read these articles and they don't even realize what they're trying to do to them. Let's start with this one. This was probably the funniest one I've seen in a while. Red state. This is the Washington Post, by the way. Okay, this isn't just a blogger. Okay, whatever your take is on the Washington poop, the Washington compost, whatever you want to call it, it gets a lot of views. It's considered a credible news outlet, at least to the Dems out there. Okay, look at this. So obviously, they know Dems are going to read this, and this is how they're marketing it to the Dems, right? Red states threaten librarians with prison as blue states work to protect them. This article literally talks about how apparently in red states, not only are librarians being threatened, if that's not funny enough and hard enough to believe because it's not true, they're actually threatening prison to a librarian. Right? So what does this do? Well, of course, it ties into this whole narrative. You know, this shows you how warped it is, that each side only sees through their own lenses, right? And they can't see that both sides have the exact same viewpoint of the other, right? Anybody who's conservative can look at Biden and these guys and see what's going on and feel like it's a tyrannical government, a communist tyrannical government that is doing what they want. There's no rules for Democrats, that the CIA, the FBI, the IRS is coming after Republicans, right? That's the viewpoint conservatives have. The other side look at it and they think if Trump wins, it's a fascist society. He's going to get rid of gays. There's going to be no more right to Planned Parenthood. And they see it's the same perspective through each side. It's extremism on each side, right? The other stuff that we see is the same thing too with the books, right? We see how they are trying to put books in public schools about what? The most ridiculous topics you can imagine, right? They're putting trans in the books. They're putting racial undertones in the books, telling everyone they're racist. They know the response of this. It's extreme, right? The Democratic Party knows that conservatives are not going to allow their kids to go into these schools. The same is on the flip side. This story, and we hear about Bible burning and banning of books. They try to tie this into like a book in the library, like, oh, well, you know, they're going to try to ban all books. You're not allowed to read books. So both sides are being gaslit with this book stuff and what can be said and can't be said, just like they're being gaslit with this tyrannical narrative from both political regimes, even though all of them are tyrannical. And conservatives can't see how Trump is a tyrant too. They only see Biden as one. When Trump was in power, we all lost our right to free speech. So this article says, Sam Lee, a leader of the Connecticut Library Association, heads to work these days torn between hope and fear. She's encouraged because legislators in her state proposed a bill this year making it harder for school boards to ban library books. But she's fearful because Connecticut, which is lib, like America, is seeing a sustained surge in book challenges. And she wonders if objectors will see the legislation as a reason to file more complaints. And ultimately about the book bans, if anyone out there doesn't know where this is headed, this is all to ban Bibles. Ultimately, it's going to be looked at as the ultimate book of hate speech and violence. We're not there yet, but 20 years from now, the younger generations are only going to know the Bible as this wicked, horrible, harmful book. Okay, that's what they're working towards. And these legislations will allow that eventually to be the world that we live in. So the librarian says, I'd like to be optimistic, but having been in my position the last few years, I don't know, it really feels like it's been forever. And I'm worried the book banners are just going to be emboldened. The bill in Connecticut, pending before an education committee, is one of a rift of measures advancing nationwide that seek to do things like prohibit book bans or forbid the harassment of school and public librarians. I mean, who's going to the library and thinks that the librarian's picking out the books? That's where I would like to start this whole conversation, right? Is anyone going to the library and you think it's just the librarian that has the say of what books are in the library? And like every book in there is like her own personal, catalog of books, right? So if it's like a trans librarian, it's only her books. There's no books in there. Like you won't find for example, 1984, or you won't find To Kill a Mockingbird. It'll only be, really? But of course, that's the idea they want you to have. This is what they're building in people's minds, right? They're literally building in people's minds that people are just lighting books on fire, no matter what the book is about, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, the government wants to destroy all books. There's going to only be books that they allow you to read, which are state-condoned books, which really are the public school books. But it's only going to get more extreme than the stuff that we've seen in the past that have political undertones to them, okay? So this goes on to say, the library-friendly measures are being outplaced by bills in mostly red states that aim to restrict which book libraries can offer and threaten librarians with prison or thousands in fines for handing out obscene or harmful titles. At least 27 states are considering 100 bills this year, 3 of which have become law, the Post found. That adds nearly a dozen similar measures enacted over the last 3 years across 10 states. So it's amazing that people don't notice how gaslit they're getting. And then you hear stories like this. So this is what states are focusing on, right? As the country goes, down on, it's falling apart, right? This is what they're focusing on. The red states are making sure that they have book bans in place because why? Because they know that this will keep liberals out of the states. Right? And it's going to force them into migrating to other states. They're doing it in every state now. Every state is now adopting and identifying with a political party. This is dual communism. Okay? What you're seeing in Texas and Florida is communism as well. You just don't realize it yet, or most people don't. I know the people that listen to my channel do. Okay? So, like I've been saying, every single thing that's a major topic is being brought back up, and nobody's suspicious as to why. No one's suspicious why Roe v. Wade all of a sudden just got brought up and overturned when we have a political, what's going on in Congress is just completely out of control. And nobody apparently is paying attention to the fact that it's both parties. They just, again, are just staring at the opposite party and blaming them for everything. And they want that. That's part of what they're doing by design. So while they're continuing to just go in circles with things like Hunter Biden's laptop, this is to give you the illusion that they're actually working for you. They're pretending like they don't want to give our money to Ukraine. And then they're like, they're shrugging their shoulders. Man, it's just this one guy. We got to oust him again. And then oust another speaker, right? Instead of the people just going, we've had enough. You're supposed to be working for us. You're not working for us. You're both parties are clearly just completely compromised, even though Democrats love everything their party's doing because that's part of communist ideologies. You don't question your party. You're not allowed to question your party. That's why when you try to think, well, maybe the Democrats will have common sense about the border. They refuse to have common sense about any of it because they're affiliated to their party. They've been trained to be communists. They've been trained to be 100% loyal to the party above God, even though most Democrats don't believe in God. The party is above everything. Everything. And that's why you see these people in Congress. They're showing you this. The Democrats agree on every single bill. And then the Democratic followers, they tweet out, they talk about how it's great that they're all locked in foot together. They're all holding hands. They're all in unison. That's not a good thing. That's what you call a vacuum, right? That's what you call an echo chamber, that they all vote the same way, that they all believe. But that's communism. And the same thing is going to occur on the conservative side. Eventually. That's why you see it just missing the point of getting any of these things passed that make sense, right? You just, 2 votes off, 5 votes off, 10 votes off, right? Because they need to destroy it first. And then these red states are going to bring in all the things that people want them to do, all things conservatives want them to do. They're going to think for a second they have free speech again. They're going to think for a second, the prices of things are going down, that everything's great, but they don't realize they're going to be sitting ducks. And they're way, way, way behind on this. They should be looking way, way ahead. They're all clamoring for this. They're all begging for this stuff. And then stories like this are out there right in front of us about, they're going to put librarians in prison. What are the other stories that are out there? Okay, here's one. There's a conservative great migration from blue states. And one place is a big winner, right? Which tells you that, look, they're telling you this stuff because they're trying to convince you. They're trying to convince you if you read this article, there's a migration from blue state. Who's the big winner? Oh, maybe I'll go to that state. They're trying to tell you which states are conservative and which states aren't. This state is South Carolina that they're talking about. Then there's articles like this, blue pockets in a red state. A look inside Wyoming's Democratic conventions. There's just this little area in Wyoming where all the Democrats have just fled to because they all have this in common, right? They don't want to be in the state anymore. They're going to go to a new state, right? Look at all the stories out there. Conservatives flocking to the state. What do gatherings in Democratic states look like? Swing states are newcomers as America move from blue to red counties. Are Americans moving from blue to red states? Okay, this is ultimately what they want you to do. That's why I continually say they're clamoring for this. Conservatives are clamoring for this because, again, Democrats, are their ideologies completely out of control? Of course they are. The majority of people who vote that way, that's why they market towards kids, etc., don't understand what's happening. I'd like to say they're completely brain dead, but they're completely brainwashed, which is what I'm trying to help them do and see. I was completely brainwashed once, okay? Not completely, because I believed in God and the Bible from a very young age, so I wasn't completely brainwashed, but to the things going on in the world I didn't get what was going on. I didn't understand secret societies, networking, how they've gotten full control, how, you go to college and you're like, wait a minute, where's my job? Right? And you're like, I apply for a job, you don't get the job. Oh, right, well, you probably didn't put in the top of the corner of your resume that you were a Freemason or what secret society you were a member of, because then you would have got hired on the spot, because that's really how all this works. That's how you advance in this American corporation. So these people are clamoring for this. They want this. That's what's scariest about it to me, is that they're thinking, they see this, they don't realize that they're getting gaslit into this, right? I get it. I see a lot of these people that walk around with blue hair, whatever you want to call how they look. Okay, I see how they talk and how they act. And do I want to live around it? No, not necessarily. But I also don't want to let these people win at what they want. Because remember, they want this. And if they want this, it means there's something bigger to come. They don't just want this because they go, okay, we just want to be away from these people too. They want to control all of us. So they're obviously going to control the conservative party. And again, it leaves them as sitting ducks. If we're divided and it's a civil war, per se. I'm not saying there's going to be a civil war with guns and cannons and whatever else you want to imagine. But if this gets divided state by state, the way that I think in the coming decade or so, okay, because this election is going to be the beginning of those dominoes falling. Because, like I've said, either side is not going to believe the outcome of the elections. It doesn't matter how this is rigged. Do I know how it's rigged? No. Do I believe Trump will be the rigged winner? Probably. But again, it works either way, because if Biden's the rigged winner, Trump followers won't believe it either, and they'll have enough and they'll separate. Either side will, because they're making it to the point where neither side can live with the opposite party in charge or living among the opposite people, which is why you're going to see another rollout of magic potions. That will be one of the ultimate things that get people like us to possibly comply, unless, of course, we can manipulate our way around their system. But like I've been saying, with the digital ID, that's the way that you won't be able to manipulate really anymore, unless you're really, really clever and smart. And I like to think that I am, but I'm not quite sure if I can trust somebody to manipulate through their system without actually getting a digital ID, right? So the digital ID, of course, is going to be the big thing because the magic potion is going to be tied into it. And then you say, well, how do we infiltrate and how do we navigate around it? Well, it's going to be hard, right? But if they make mandates like that again, people like me and you aren't going to be able to live in states that force that on us, are we? No, we're not. That's what's coming next. That's why that happened the way it did the first time. I've talked about this on the website many times. The bills that got put in place after that are going to make things way worse the next time. And that's the point. The bills are now in place for massive quarantines, massive shutdowns, people losing their jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Only in the Democratic states. That's how we could see which states are already set up to be Democratic states. And those are, some of them are already really obvious, just like some of the conservative ones, right? New York, Dem. California, Dem. Illinois, Dem, right? Those are the obvious ones. Conservative, Texas, and Florida. Everybody knows that. That's pretty clear, right? And you might even have, like they showed in that map, some type of, they showed the Florida alliance. That actually might be the Florida alliance with Texas, which would be the face. Now, again, there's probably going to be outlier states, which I think could potentially happen, but we'll get to that down the line. First, we need to get people to realize what they're doing. We need to get conservatives to realize that this is ultimately people who are looking forward to the election. They all think that Trump is going to win in a landslide, okay? Which makes me think that they'll put Biden back in, too, so it can work either way. But all those people are convinced that Trump will win, and if he doesn't win, it's rigged. Okay? And Democrats are convinced of the same thing. And both sides, with more laws that get passed, like, oh my gosh, librarians are feeling threatened in red states. Okay, well, people, not just obviously librarians won't just flee blue states because there's not many librarians, okay? But those types of undertones with books, with what they perceive as freedom, even though the books that they read are all communist propaganda books, okay? All these books that they're trying to get in, they're all communist propaganda books about the color of your skin. I mean, it's unbelievable. So these people think it's like we're advanced thinking now, and these people are really talking about quality. They're so dumb. It's incredible. And they're dumb because they're under mind control, but they're also the same people that hear a video like mine and refuse to believe it. That's what gets me irritated. They refuse to believe it because they're narcissists. And they've created narcissists, so they don't want to hear anything other than what they believe now. They're not willing to change. They're not willing to accept that this is all simulated and created, it really manufactured, right? Like the old commercial I always played in my videos. The factory is your home. The product being manufactured is you. And that's exactly what's happening here. So I worry about conservatives. I worry about them. I worry about everybody because this shouldn't be happening. But everybody's accepting of this, and they don't realize that they're seed planting you. They're seed planting you with movies like this, how to respond when it happens. They're seed planting you with articles like this. We've never seen this before, okay? We've never seen states associated with political parties. 30 years ago, everybody wouldn't even know how somebody else voted, and nobody would care. You know, if it came up at a dinner party, people are like, I don't talk politics. If it came up, it came up. And people would be like, yeah, whatever. You're allowed to feel that way. It's not a big deal. Now it's like, if you disagree, I won't be your friend. I don't want to see you ever again. I don't want to hang out. And that's all been done by their mind control propaganda. No other reason other than that. They're gaslighting you. They're manipulating you like a crazy ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. And ultimately, people aren't looking ahead and seeing these stories and why they're here now. They're seed planting. They're conditioning you and programming you. Just like that movie is programming you, which is why they call the TV, or used to call the TV and the movies, programs, because they're programming you. And eventually, when this stuff goes down the way they expect it to go down, which I believe will be this election, it'll be the next domino to fall. People go, well, I don't want to live with these people. And instead of going, wait a minute. What we should be doing right now is watching how both sides should be evaluating both sides, their own side and the other side, and saying none of them are working for us. They're supposed to be our employees, literally, and we're their slaves. They're supposed to be our employees. That's what a politician is. Right? But we know, obviously, that they don't really get elected. But let's say we're pretending that we're everybody else out there. Oh, your vote counts. Oh, yeah? Okay. Well, then they're supposed to be working for us. That's the illusion we're in? Fine. And they're clearly not. But they don't get held. No one is held accountable. And if the people made all of them on both sides, their own party specifically, held accountable, right? And they said, look, we're gonna take the Constitution. We're going to use the Constitution. Okay? And instead of the seed plants that means that there's going to be a violent revolution like the fake CIA staged January, whatever day that was. I can't say it because the algorithm, the event that occurred on that day where black ops were present. Because everybody out there thinks when you say a revolution or something that it's something like that. Instead of saying, press the power button on their little offices they go to, shut it down, okay? Form a new government. The people. That's what the Constitution is for. But what they want you to do is invest in your party instead of actually doing what you should do and people should do, which is not participate in theirs anymore. Don't participate in it. and break free from it. Shut off the box, shut off the devices, break free from it. Okay? We outnumber them. But until the conservatives realize that, till the Democrats realize that this is what's being done to them, which they won't because they're narcissistic on both sides, right? And they're dumbed down on both sides because they don't realize what mind control is, and they're under it. They're under it. Trump says all the right things. I get it. He says all the right things, but so does a master manipulator. So does every serial killer out there that seduces a girl into his car. And they go, how did this girl get in the car with him? They didn't know. They're like, well, he was charming. Oh, right. Oh, well, I could see why. Even though Trump doesn't seem charming to me, I can see why conservatives love him. Because he's saying what you're feeling. And that's the point. That's manipulation. When someone's saying what you're feeling, of course you're going to go, wow. Yeah, Trump realizes these people are all crazy. They're all nut jobs. Yeah, no crap. He's saying that so that you put your trust in him to change this. Nobody even remembers when he went into power 8 years ago and he said he would drain the swamp, and he did nothing. Hillary didn't get arrested. In fact, I know for a fact, because I know another YouTuber, wink, wink, that censorship began under his watch. Not under Biden's, but nobody remembers this. They remember now, today, right? But if you do look back, and you even look at today, what we can see is that Congress is not functioning or working for the people, which means it's gone rogue, which means if you don't wake up now, you're going to end up getting herded into this like sheep and cattle, because that's what all these articles I showed you, that's what it means. They're showing you where you're going to go, and then they're telling you how they're going to get you there, because it might not have hit you yet. It might not have hit a heartstring yet. Any of these stories that have, if you're in a blue state, right, and you're conservative and you're listening, none of these stories may have made you go, oh, I'm going to move tomorrow. But there will be one. There will be one, because wait for the mandates. And the Democratic side, maybe you're somebody, you don't care about Roe v. Wade, right? Maybe you do, but you're like, yeah, but it's not enough to get me to move. Maybe you never plan on having kids anyway, right? Take that perspective. Okay, right? So you hear this stuff, or you're not having kids, but I mean, maybe you never plan on getting pregnant, or you can't possibly is what I mean, right? Maybe you're both the same gender, so you can't get pregnant, so you don't have to worry about that. So that may not affect you leaving your state, okay? But then when they come out in a couple of years, months, and they say, well, gays can't get married in our state anymore. And we're not actually, on top of that, we're not going to let them go into a store and get their own cake for a wedding if they even tried, do it in their backyard. If the two names are both female or both male, we won't even sell it to you. And suddenly those people go, I can't live here anymore, right? It's coming. You may not have felt it yet on either side. Some issue may not have come up yet that's going to affect you, but they brought up the big ones, but there's still some underlying big ones that are going to reverse. That's one of them for the Democrats, the gay rights, and the other one's going to be the magic potion for us. It totally is. And then they're going to use things to manipulate you, like you thinking that if you're in a conservative state, you could say what you want again, et cetera, et cetera. It's all a work. They're telling us beforehand what's coming, and it's coming. I thank everybody for being here. Hope this video was helpful to you. Hope you're all doing well, as always. And as always, God bless you and your families.